Why is it that there seems to be no effective revolutionary movements in the United States of America? Well, that's what we're getting into today. Aldous Huxley's Brave New World is often called science fiction, but in many ways it's a blueprint for the world we live in right now. In the book, the government doesn't control people with violence or fear. Instead, they keep people obedient through pleasure, through comfort, through distraction. Let's break it down. In the novel Brave New World, people are constantly entertained and sedated by things like casual sex and feel-good drugs like Soma. They don't question the system. They don't call for revolutionary change because they're always distracted, pleasured, or pacified. Now think about life in the United States. We've got Amazon bringing everything we want right to the door. Grubhub delivers food without us having to leave our homes. Video games offer endless fantasy worlds. Pornography gives the illusion of intimacy without real connection. And sports commands more of our emotional investment and attention than we give in our own communities and organizations and families. None of these things are evil by themselves, but when you take it all together, they form a web of constant distraction and pleasure seeking. A population drowning in pleasure does not revolt. It consumes. In Huxley's world, people are conditioned from birth to accept things as they are. They don't ask deep questions. They don't dream of changing the system. And that's by design, of course. In our world, we face a similar issue. The education system doesn't teach us to think critically. It teaches us to follow rules and regurgitate information. Algorithms on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram feed us more of what we already believe. Entertainment is constant, and therefore, self-reflection is rare. And with everybody glued to their phones and devices, when do we sit down and ask the critical questions like, what am I here to do? What gifts do I have that can transform this world? Who benefits from my ignorance and apathy? Brave New World runs on constant consumption. People are taught to love new things and hate anything and anyone old. The economy depends on endless buying and consuming. Well, in the United States, it's the same thing. We're told we could be anything, but only if we buy the right clothes, shoes, phone, or car. Our worth becomes what we own instead of who we are. We chase dopamine hits from purchases, likes, and clicks, but rarely do we feel whole. Capitalism wants us busy chasing the next upgrade, the next delivery, the next TV show, because as long as we're chasing comfort and pleasure, we're not chasing freedom, justice, and liberation. The most disturbing part of the Brave New World novel is that these people actually believe they're free. They don't realize they've traded their humanity for comfort and pleasure. Here in the United States, we're told we're free because we can quote unquote choose. Yeah, choose between Netflix or Hulu, Android or iPhone, Democrat or Republican. But what about real choices? Can we choose to live without being monitored and surveyed by police officers? Can we choose leaders that aren't backed by greedy and ruthless billionaires? Can we choose to live without worrying about how we're going to pay rent, take care of our health, or avoid police violence? The truth is, many of us are stuck in a system that keeps us numb, distracted, and disconnected from ourselves and from each other. Huxley tried to warn us. He said the future wouldn't be controlled by tyrants with whips, as George Orwell said in his book 1984, but by pleasure, by comfort, and by distraction. And if we're not careful, we will sleepwalk right into that future if we're not already there. But the moment we unplug, reflect, and reconnect with each other, family, that's when we start to reclaim our minds, our dignity, and our power. In case you're wondering, well, how can I unplug? How can I reconnect? How can I avoid being a slave to pleasure? Here's some suggestions. Number one, practice mindful consumption. Ask yourself, why am I watching this? Why am I eating this? Why am I ordering this? Track how much time you spend on entertainment, shopping, food delivery, or social media. Use tools like screen time limits or no spin weeks to reset your habits. Number 2, set purpose-driven goals. Define your mission. What are you building, changing, or learning? Align your daily actions with that mission so pleasure becomes a reward, not a substitute for progress. Create a personal schedule that includes time for reflection, reading, learning, and community service. Number 3, reclaim boredom. Don't rush to fill every quiet moment with stimulation. Let boredom spark creativity, creative thought, and spiritual reflection. Try going for walks without your phone. Try journaling your thoughts, or just sitting still and meditating. 4, fast from comfort. Do short pleasure fasts. So for example, no sugar, no takeout food for 7 days. No social media for the weekend. No screens after 9 p.m. This builds discipline and reminds you that you're in control, not your devices or your appetites. Number 5, replace escape with engagement. Swap pleasure-based habits with purpose-based ones. So for instance, you replace your binge watching with reading or community learning. Trade your video games for skills practice or volunteerism. Replace mindless scrolling with journaling or organizing. Number 6, connect with conscious people. Build community with others who value depth, discipline, and purpose. Host or join book clubs, political education groups, or empowerment circles. Accountability makes change sustainable. Number 7, develop spiritual or philosophical anchors. Whether through meditation, prayer, African spiritual traditions, or ancestral practices, create space for reflection and alignment, and do this intentionally and consistently. This builds resilience and it recenters your values beyond instant gratification. Number 8, and possibly most important, question the society. Ask yourself, who profits from my distractions? Stay aware of how capitalism weaponizes comfort to keep us passive and sedate. Use that awareness to make conscious, revolutionary choices. Remember, pleasure isn't necessarily the enemy here. Unconscious, constant pleasure is. Freedom, family, begins with awareness. Power comes from self-discipline and consciousness. And transformation begins the moment you say, I will no longer be sedated by the system. There you have it, family. One of the main reasons there's no revolution in the United States is because they have skillfully used pleasure and distractions to sedate and silence us. Peace and Black Power.